So when we bring our attention to the four establishments of mindfulness on feelings, I'm encountering a stark and jarring reality. It can at times be humorous, at times it is humbling, and quite often embarrassing. And so it's very worthwhile to pursue this for all the reasons I just mentioned, to tame our mind. The volume that has tremendous insights, wisdom, is volume 4 in the Library of Wisdom and Compassion by Venerable Children and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So the quotes I'm using in this talk are from this volume, and there's just wonderful advice on how to do this practice. So in this world where you have so many endless choices, first of all, it's quite astonishing to know that there's just 3 feelings. Just 3. And they can be subdivided into, let's start with those 3. Pleasant. And this can be mental or physical, painful, mental or physical, and neutral. And with those few choices, the experiences that we have are just endless. And then those can be subdivided further, as His Holiness writes in this volume with Venerable Children. Worldly feelings arise from contact with sense objects. Spiritual feelings arise from aligning our minds with the Dharma. Now, here's the jarring part. When you start looking into this, much of our life is completely driven by these feelings and our response to these 3 feelings. And it takes a very long time, I'm not there yet, to even separate out the feeling from the response. It's just so fast. It is just so fast, it seems like they're melded. They're one unit. When in fact there's a feeling, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, there's a response, and the response to pleasant feelings is attachment. The response to painful feelings is aversion, anger. I gotta get away from it. I can't stand it. And then neutral is we just kind of space out. We don't notice it. So of course, when attachment arises, we have a pleasant feeling, attachment arises, immediately the mind thinks, I want more of that, because definitely more of that is going to bring more happiness. There's no question. And same thing with unpleasant, painful feelings. Aversion comes up. There's an affliction. I want to get away from it. I've got to do something to get away from it. And then what lines up with these 3, pleasant, painful, and neutral, are the 3 poisonous attitudes. Kind of nice, they line up like that. So with pleasant, there's attachment. With painful, there's anger. And with neutral, there's ignorance. And so, as Venerable Children says in one of her teachings, we go from feelings to the 3 poisonous attitudes, to karma, to getting reborn, and it happens over and over and over again. Feelings. 3 poisonous attitudes. We create karma, and that leads us to get reborn over and over again. And so I thought we'd look at 2 examples that are on the lighter side. You can pick any example. It's happening all day long, so I chose 2 that are, I think, fairly light in my experience. So we'll start in the meditation hall. And we're there in session. It's winter retreat. We've got ourselves set up. Our body's feeling pretty good in that moment. There's no obvious aches and pains. And we've just done a really inspiring motivation that we're kind of pleased about. And our mind is just ready to go. And then, if this isn't loud enough, Danya, I'm going to ask you to crank the volume, but don't blow the speakers. And then we hear in my experience, unpleasant. And from there, it goes to irritation. And then from there, it goes to the story spinning, and we know how that goes, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so Venerable says, let's take a look at these events. They're happening all day long. In meditation, we can take a look at this event and just slow it down and see it for what it really is. Okay, so the cause of feelings is contact with objects. In this case, the object was the sound of the wrapping being removed. And the sense faculty, the ear faculty, and the preceding moment of consciousness come together to produce contact. And due to this contact, an auditory consciousness with a painful mental feeling arises. And this brings the response of aversion, anger. Here's the story that starts. I was just getting settled and there was this sound of the wrapper started and now I'm distracted and I'm upset and blah, 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 blah. There goes the object of meditation. So as His Holiness and Venerable reminds us, worldly painful feelings are triggered by contact with undesirable sense objects or from not acquiring the desirable ones that we seek. So what do we do then? We've got this situation happening, and likely in my case, I'll speak for myself, I can't catch it at the painful I can't catch it at the feeling stage. Often I can't even catch it at the response stage. I'm catching it when the story starts. And then the other thing to know, that these painful, neutral, pleasant feelings that we experience are the results of our previous actions. Now that's a mind-blowing statement, and that one stops me in my tracks. If the antidote that I try to apply to the afflicted mental state is just getting the yes buts, then I repeat this one. The pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings we experience are the results of our previous actions. There's no finger to point. There's no one to blame. Absolutely no one to blame. It's all coming from my mind, my past actions. Okay, that's one example. There's another example, and there's examples you can do all day long off the cushion. So, 2 days ago, the object in the morning, during breakfast, tasty pancake. Singular, just one pancake, one tasty pancake. So the sense faculty, the tongue faculty, and the preceding moment of consciousness came together to produce contact. Due to this contact, the gustatory consciousness with a pleasant feeling arose. Immediately attachment was present. The attachment was increased with the addition of maple syrup and creamy yogurt on that pancake. The pleasant feeling seemed to continue with every bite. It was not diminishing in my experience. And so, of course, I thought that if I keep eating these pancakes with the maple syrup and the creamy yogurt, my happiness is just going to increase. So then Venerable Children starts talking with some advice, and then she says, in that moment, if you can do this, try to see the pleasure for what it is. Instead of letting our mind just run with the story of I want more, I want better, and imagining how much better it's going to be with every bite. And why do I call this pleasure? What is actually pleasurable about that sensation? Well, it all started with the smell of the pancakes in the kitchen when I walked in. So in that case, the object is the freshly cooked pancake, noted by the sense faculty, the nose faculty, and the preceding moment of consciousness came together to produce contact. Due to this contact, the olfactory consciousness with a pleasant feeling arose, attachment happened. I want to eat that pancake, and I start looking around right now to make sure there is maple syrup and there is creamy yogurt. So what is it about the taste of the pancake that brings me such immediate sense of happiness? Is it the sweetness of the maple syrup, actually? Is it the tang of the yogurt? Is it the 3 tastes in combination? And then if we look at these one at a time, if someone handed me a bottle of maple syrup, would I be in the same state mentally? No. Or if someone handed me an old dried out piece of bread and said, here you go, imagine this is a pancake, there's the maple syrup and the yogurt. That wouldn't work. And so as I start looking for what is exactly pleasant, pleasurable in that, it actually gets a little bit embarrassing because I'm not sure what it is. And then, as we can see in our experiences, these feelings and our reactions, they come so fast. And because the feelings are impermanent and everything that goes along with those reactions, it can all change in a heartbeat. So there I am, eating this beautifully made pancake with all of this toppings. And then the memory of the words that Venerable Sultram said in the kitchen, just take one so that we can make sure that everyone has a pancake, arises in my mind. And the memory of that brings a painful feeling. Because now I'm being separated from what I want to get in a few moments, that second pancake, because for sure if the first one's bringing happiness, the second one is going to as well. So it goes on and on and on, breaking down these moments where we can even actually notice the feeling and the response before we start the stories. It's fascinating. You can't be bored. Off the cushion, on the cushion. And I'll close with some wonderful words of advice from His Holiness and Venerable Children. In mindfulness of feelings, observe and examine the causes and results of feelings. Through this, understand that feelings are impermanent and they're in the nature of dukkha. Feelings change at the slightest condition. The warm sun brings a pleasant feeling, and a moment later the wind brings an unpleasant one. Feelings are unstable, and they continuously change. Because they are so transient, there's no sense in being attached to pleasant feelings or upset by unpleasant ones. When we are not so reactive to our feelings, the mind becomes calmer.